it's Richard Wade from Risk and Safety Compliance Services. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes having a quick chat with you about rural crime and the recent publication from the National Farmers Union Mutual. Their annual crime report makes for very interesting reading, and the headline figures look really great, 6% reduction. And what I've done is I've put some analysis together over the last few years, because I want us not to get complacent and carried away thinking, oh, crime's on the way down, everything's great, because it's actually not. It's actually really, really bad. And I'm going to explain to you why that is in a moment. But more importantly, I'm going to point out some ideas and some practical solutions that you, if you work in farming, agriculture, landed estates, or any rural business, some practical solutions that you can implement today. I'm going to show you some goods and services that we have available right now at the click of a button that will make a real difference to your security in your farm or your rural business. So let me bring up my my infographic that I've put together, and I'm going to take you through it. Let's start at the top. So the headline finding, this is based on research from 2019 right up until a couple of days ago, when the 2025 figures, i.e. the 2026 NFU Mutual Report, was published. So the headline finding shows that there's been a drop for the last couple of years, from 52.8 million in 2023 to 44.1 million in 2024. And then the latest findings, 41.5 million. Still big figures. But this comes with a caveat. This is based on claims data for one large insurer in the UK. And this includes claims made. So really, this isn't the true picture. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg. So what about all the people who have suffered rural crime who aren't insured with this particular insurance company? What about all of those who have suffered loss, had things stolen, who didn't actually bother to report it? That's quite an issue in itself. So the figures are good. I commend, I really do, the NFU Mutual for their annual report. It gives us a great snapshot. But let's not for one moment think that that's a true picture of rural crime in the United Kingdom. It is absolutely far from it. So let's look at some headline figures then. So between 2019, down from £54.3 million to about 41.5 million in the latest figures published, of around 23%. And that sounds really good, and it is. It's the trajectory is good. There's still a lot to be done. What's improved? The overall cost down 6%. Bear in mind the limitations of the data. GPS theft has fallen sharply from 1.2 million in 2024 down to 250,000 in the latest report. That's a huge drop of around 80%. And then we've then got improvements in collaboration, tracking, marking, and intelligence sharing is having an effect on this downward trajectory. And I think a positive note here, look, the NFU Mutual invested over £500,000 in 2025, 13 ANPR cameras were installed, £9.3 million worth of stolen machinery was recovered last year as well. So that's absolutely fantastic news. However, let's temper that with what's getting worse. Vehicle theft up 18% to 8.3 million last year. Quad and ATV theft up to £3.5 million. Tractor theft up to 1.6 million. Telehandler theft, massive hike, 38% to nearly £750,000 there. And then dog attacks on farms rising 10% to just under £2 million. So there's a bit of a balance between things that are getting better and things that aren't. So the big question is it getting better or is it getting worse? Well, it's a bit of a mixture, isn't it? Headline costs are falling, but we're seeing sharp increases in certain types of crime because the criminals are adapting to the circumstances. So let me ask this question here in the bottom left corner. Why is rural crime still high? The organized gangs are adapting. They They're very quick, very quick to adopt new technologies and equipment and tech available to them, and they're operating across border forces, police forces, and indeed national borders. The rural isolation results in a slower response time from law enforcement, and there's still a great deal of underreporting taking place. People don't report a lot of crimes, and that hides the true picture, the true scale of what's going on out there. And then you've got the natural things that go on in the countryside, the way of life, how business is undertaken. We've got open farmyards, unsecured yards, weak points in security, keys often left in vehicles in isolated locations, a dream scenario for these rural criminals. And then, of course, strong resale demand and overseas markets keeps this a profitable and ongoing thriving business model for the rural crime gangs. They're very, very well organized, and their routes to market are well established, whether that's small hand tools, leaf blowers, chainsaws, drills and the likes being sold on Facebook Marketplace and car boot sales, or whether it's the chop shops that you've seen me talking about recently and posting about on LinkedIn, where in rural locations they'll strip down a tractor and various other agricultural machinery and equipment, get it packaged, get it palletized, get it wrapped up, and it'll be in a container at a port, often within 5 or 6 hours, on its way to Africa, the Middle East, and indeed a big marketplace has opened up since the war in Ukraine, where there's a shortage of parts over there. So, the routes to market are really, really well established and highly, highly efficient. Things get stolen, they get dismembered, cloned, changed, and they're gone. And the marketplace is there waiting for them. Police and prevention teams still face resource gaps. There's been a lot of funding notifications over the last year or so, and particularly at the National Rural Crime Conferences, government funding was announced. But, in the big scheme of things, if we're still experiencing last year £41.5 million worth of notified theft through the NFU Mutual report versus 2019 54, hasn't really changed, has it? There's no difference there. The only thing, it's just different things getting stolen, yes, on a smaller scale, but it's still a huge problem. It's a massive issue. So what farmers and agents are telling us, and again, this, I say us, this is from the information taken during the NFU Mutual survey. Crime, 91% of respondents to the survey say that crime is disrupting farm activity. Well, of course it is. Someone steals your tractor, your quad bike, your fuel supplies, your fencing supplies, your fertilizer, whatever it might be, particularly your GPS tracking units from your agricultural equipment. There's a huge disruption. You may well be insured. In fact, we know these are insured because they're part of the study. However, a lot of people aren't insured. A lot of people are underinsured. And even those that have good insurance in place find difficulty in getting replacement parts and replacement equipment and machinery quickly enough. The agricultural business is very much weather dependent and has very strict and tight deadlines, and a 1 or 2 or 3 week gap during harvesting period to get a new tracker unit or a new combine or a new John Deere, whatever it might be, is going to cause huge business interruption. And often these interruptions and business effects are irrecoverable, and a lot of businesses go under or they lose crops for a whole season. And it has a massive impact on both the financial viability of the rural operation and also on the mental health of those involved, the farmers, the landowners, the workers. Has a huge impact. 79% know repeat victims. This is not uncommon in a rural crime setting. The scenario is the criminals spot a weakness or an opportunity. They go in and exploit it. They steal the stuff, whatever that might be, move it into their market supply chain and get rid of it. At the same time, the farmer, the landowner, the business operator has it insured, gets a replacement, often doesn't improve security. Criminals come back and it's a rinse and repeat cycle. They steal the new stuff and stick that in their marketplace. So it's a real nightmare scenario. But the good news is there's a lot that can be done to prevent it. Yeah, and the final bit to point out, 90% of respondents in the surveys believe that local rural crime policing teams need more funding. They're under-resourced, they're undermanned, and to be able to respond to the scale of the issue, bearing in mind this is just the tip of the iceberg, is really, really difficult. The teams out there do a fantastic job with the resources that they've got, but obviously they need more resources. One thing I want to harp on about very briefly, I mentioned there underreporting. I would urge you, regardless of the level of insurance you've got, regardless of how important or not important you think your particular crime is, you need to report it to the authorities, because that gives a better, truer understanding of the picture in your particular area. The better reporting, the more importance will be allocated to resourcing crime prevention in your particular area. So you must report rural crime, regardless of how you think it's important or not important. Get it reported to your local rural crime team. So what needs to happen next then? Let's have a quick look. The way to prevent rural crime, there's no one thing that fixes everything. There's a layered approach to this. And it's a mixture of physical, technical, and other social measures, all intertwined, that build up a bigger and better defense. Just putting a padlock on your equipment isn't the way forward. We need to think about perimeter security, fencing, gates, access routes, CCTV, signage, WhatsApp groups, talking to your neighbours, and yes, the physical locking down of stuff, keeping vehicle keys out of the vehicles, putting things in locked barns and sheds, and securing things inside. Sometimes armoured lockers is the only way to prevent it, but it's a multi-layered approach, and I would urge you to consider that as you look at your own security. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Track, mark and immobilise machinery and equipment, report every crime and suspicious activity. If you see people in your area that aren't usually there, could be people wandering around in vehicles or dog walkers, whatever it might be, if it doesn't look right, just get it reported. Rural crime prevention teams, local policing teams would rather hear about things that are not actually problems than and have them on their radar, things to look out for, rather than having to respond to the crime once it's happened. So the information, the data is really, really important. Join local watch groups, whether that's crime watch groups, neighborhood watch groups, local WhatsApp group. Bear in mind, though, criminals also infiltrate WhatsApp groups and other online social media groups. So just be mindful that you may actually have strangers and baddies in the midst as well. And you need to basically look after your own security. Prevention is better than cure. So what can you do now, today, to prevent yourself becoming a victim of rural crime? It's too late once it's happened. You wake up and your kit's gone, you've got no fuel left in your reserves, you've lost your fertilizer, maybe they've nicked your dog, maybe they've nicked your quad bike, your ATV, your gator, your tractor, your trailer, your horses, your animals. Once you notice the crime, it's too late. The horse literally has bolted, and you're left with the cleanup operation, the insurance hassles, the replacement cost, the downtime, and the stress and the fear and the anxiety that goes alongside being a victim of not just rural crime, of any crime. So it's all about prevention. Let's get in now before they come and get into us. And when it comes to rural crime prevention, I'd advocate two things. One is competent, trained, briefed staff. And number two is knowing your own vulnerabilities, knowing your own weaknesses. I can guarantee that the vast majority of the people who watch this, if you work in the rural sector, whether you're on a farm or a estate or a remote rural business, you will have vulnerabilities that you don't even know about. Because for you, you don't see the woods for the trees. It's just how things are. The fact that the John Deere over there has got the keys in the ignition might not be an issue to you, because that's how it's been for the last 5, 10, 15 or 20 years. But the day will come when the criminal notices that, and they'll take it, and you're left with the cleanup and the mess that we were referring to earlier. So what can we do about it? Well, I would advocate two things. One, find out your own vulnerabilities now, today, before it's too late. How do you do that? Well, there's a number of options available to you. You can liaise with your local rural crime policing teams who do some wonderful programs and give some great advice. That's one option. I highly recommend, if that's available to you in your area, that you do that. You can share data and information in your local neighborhood groups, your farm watch groups, your neighborhood watch groups, your WhatsApp groups, whatever that might be. Get some tips and advice. But really what you need to do is take some time out of your diary, out of your day, to diarize proactive action. You need to do a structured review of your security. And I've put something together that will enable you to do that. I've got two things that I think will make a difference to your life, that if you follow them, I can guarantee 100%, not that you're not going to be a victim of rural crime, but that you're going to be less attractive to the rural criminals. So what's the first one? Rural crime prevention training for you and your managers and your workers, so that people have an idea of what rural crime is all about. Because rural crime to one person might mean one thing, and to their neighbor might mean something else, and to the guy or the lady who's been a victim of crime, something totally different. So we need to know, what are we dealing with here? And I would highly recommend that you consider taking our rural crime prevention course. It's an online course. It tells you all about the state of play in the UK with regards to rural crime, what the criminals are doing, how they're doing it, what they're doing with your stuff when they've nicked it, but more importantly, how they look at you and assess your vulnerabilities. But then there's a little sort of action bit at the end that says, right, now let's do something about it. Let's go and plug the gaps once we've found them. So it's an online practical course aimed at you, the farm owner, the land manager, the manager supervisor, and your workers. Very cost effective, it's not expensive, and it's fully online. And if you do it from start to finish in one go, it'll only take you about an hour and 10 minutes to do the entire course. Once you've finished and you've clicked finish, you'll get a certificate of completion. So that's our rural crime prevention course. In the build up to Serials 2026, where I'm exhibiting on stand IM118, I have got various special offers on, so keep an eye out on social media for those. I've got some course bundles where I'm lumping together the rural crime prevention course and our online farm health and safety training courses together, practically giving you all the courses for the price of one. Real cost effective, improving both your safety and your security in one fell swoop. So that's the rural crime prevention training. You can either click that QR code there, or as you see at the bottom here, we've got www.ruralcrimetraining.co.uk, where you can sign up to the courses there. So that gets one side of the important equation taken care of. We end up with informed people who know about rural crime and are aware of when things aren't quite right, but more importantly, what to do about it, how to raise the alarm, how to raise suspicions to management and then on to the police if required. So I would highly recommend that to you. And then there's something else that's unique to me. I've put together, I'm not aware of anything else like this. I've done a lot of search and research beforehand. I've put together a digital download aimed at the rural sector, farms, landed estates, rural businesses, those working or living in the remote countryside. A digital download that is really cost effective. But once you download it, you log on. I'll show you the link in a moment. You can log on, pay the price. It's $14.99, and in your inbox immediately you'll get a digital download that's PDF fillable. And the idea is, it takes you through a structured review of your own security on your premises. It'll ask you all of the questions, and you put in the answer. And where something's not quite right, you end up with an action plan of things you need to do to make yourself less vulnerable. So, it's really cost effective. You just need to allocate a little bit of time to A, go and purchase it, and B, go and do it. But I'll guarantee it, I'll 100% guarantee, if you do the full review, you will identify things that need action in, And once you've done them, the guarantee is that you will be a safer proposition and less vulnerable to the antics of rural criminals, who also look for the exact vulnerabilities that we will have identified as you go through the checklist. So let me commend that to you. There's two things to look at. I put together a free sample. So if you can go either to all of the websites, so ruralcrimes.com or rascs.co.uk, where you can actually go and let me just stop that. I do apologize. It's live, but there you go, that's the way it is. So I've put together like a free checklist, a little sample that you can look at, so you get a feel for it. You can download that for nothing, and then if you decide this is a good idea, you can then go to this QR code where you can download the actual full fillable checklist, and that'll give you access to the whole checklist that you can work your way through, fill it in, develop an action plan, implement the actions required, and hey presto, you're a safer commodity. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about, is this, the state of rural crime in the UK based upon NFU Mutual reports, but with the emphasis that that's not the true picture. There's more to it than that. And when I say more to it, I mean a hell of a lot more to it than just the data published there. But don't take that the wrong way. This is a fantastic bit of information that the NFU Mutual put out every year, and it really is quite commendable, and it's freely available on the internet, which you can download and go and have a look at. What you're seeing on the screen there is the snapshot that I've taken, having analyzed the data over the last few years from 2019 to 2025. So that's me, that's Richard Lloyd. Let me just get rid of that, bring myself back into show, and then I'll close this down. I hope you found this of interest. It's just a quick snapshot on rural crime prevention. And in closing, I think all I want to say is it's a huge problem. It can have massive impacts on you, your family, and ultimately your livelihood and your business and your operational viability in some cases, where there's still vital equipment and stock and store and animals, you know, particularly if you've got, say, breeding ewes or breeding whatever it might be, and they steal that or they butcher it in your field. Long-term implications, real nightmare scenarios, but it can be prevented. I would urge you to come and have a chat with us on Stand IM118. I'll be doing quite a bit of social media over the next week regarding the serial stand. Come and have a chat with us. We'll talk to you about rural crime prevention, farm health and safety, and risk management, generally speaking. We'll also have on offer some fantastic offers and deals, some training course bundles to get you up to speed with what's going on out there in the world of safety and the world of crime. And the ultimate aim is to make you and your businesses less vulnerable, to make you the farm or the business where the criminals look at you and go, that's a well-protected bit of kit, that's a well-protected farmyard. They've got good lighting, they've got signage, it looks like they've got CCTV, it looks like things are in order and being taken care of. Let's go and have a look next door and see how they're doing. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope it's been of interest to you, and feel free to comment, leave any comments that you like on this, and share away if you don't mind. Thank you very much for your time. That's me, that's Richard Wade, signing out, wishing you a